Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of The Millennial Mind. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey of speaking my mind, and I hope that all of you are speaking your mind as well. Okay, y'all, so I was really excited to do this episode today because even though I do not want to really talk about it because I don't want to bring publicity to it even the more, but I feel like it still needs to be talked about. And that is your boy, the incomparable Kanye West. Okay, so if some of my listeners are not aware who Kanye West is an American rapper, singer, songwriter, etc. As we have noticed, he has been acting a little bit differently lately. I believe he's been acting differently since his mom passed away. But even more so now, it seems he's just kind of gone like off his rocker. So what started it was that he stated, I believe it was on Twitter, that he was going to run for president. First of all, nothing pertaining to these presidential candidates surprised me at all. I feel like since Donald Trump has won the presidency, I feel like anything could happen. I feel like pigs could fly. I feel like hell could freeze over. Like, I'm not surprised by anything anymore. So when Kanye said he was going to run for president, I'm like, not surprising. Now, he hasn't completed the necessary paperwork as far as I know, in order for him to even run for president. So this I'm not taking too seriously, but stranger things have happened, so I wouldn't be surprised. Over the weekend, I believe it was over the weekend or maybe even earlier this week, he had his first presidential rally. And some people decided to go for whatever reason. Maybe it's because it was Kanye. Maybe people wanted to be entertained. I don't know, but I would not have gone. That's just me. But during this presidential rally, he said some off-the-wall things that most normal people wouldn't say. And there were a couple that I'm going to, actually, 2 or 3, I should say, that I want to bring to you all's attention that you all probably heard. The first thing that he said, or one of the first things that he said was, "My mom saved my life. My dad wanted to abort me. My mom saved my life. There would have been no Kanye West because my dad was too busy." Now, I feel for him on that. So, to me, from what he said, I can infer that his dad wanted him to be aborted, but his mom wanted to keep him. So if it wasn't for his mom's decision to keep him and bring him into this world, there will be, of course, no Kanye West. So he was breaking down crying, and I felt for him because anytime you hear that a parent does not want you, I'm sure that has a negative impact on your psyche and the way that you live your life, knowing that you weren't wanted. So I feel for him in this respect because that's something that you never want to hear, that your parent had that mindset. But you know what? That wasn't the craziest thing that he said. So let's keep going. One of the other things that he said that was a little bit, on a scale of 1 to 10 on the crazy scale, this was a 50, okay? He said, and I quote, "Harriet Tubman never actually freed the slaves. She just had them work for other white people." What's wrong with your boy? What is wrong? Now, as we all know, Harriet Tubman was a pioneer in Black history and history in general. She was an individual, one of the individuals that helped hundreds of slaves to be free. So she took them from the South and traveled to the North, most likely through the Underground Railroad. So she is a pioneer. Now, what a lot of Black people may have done after they were freed, thanks to Harriet Tubman, was work for white people. That is a possibility. They may have been a maid or something like that. But to say that was Harriet Tubman's doing is a little bit far-fetched. A lot far-fetched. Just the fact that Harriet Tubman freed these African American slaves was just in and of itself a miracle, because a lot of times she went alone, so she was helping all of these slaves by herself. Now, what these slaves did after they were freed is their business, but she did her part in order to free them. To say that she freed them only to have them work for other white people, that wasn't on her. That was on whoever or whichever slave was freed at the time. So I could kind of infer what Kanye was saying. Just, you could tell that somebody probably gave him a speech. His speechwriter gave him a speech, and he was like, I don't need this. I'm going to just say what I want to say. And this is proof or evidence of why you should have a speechwriter. Because Kanye West, he should not be allowed to say what he just said, because it was just, it can be perceived wrong. Okay. But there's even more crazy, okay? Moving along. He then talks about his daughter, Northwest. Okay? There could be a whole conversation on just her name alone, but you know what? I digress. So, he was saying that at one point, he wanted to abort his daughter. So this is what he said about it. He said Kim Kardashian, who is his wife, was crying. And for 1 month and 2 months and 3 months, we talked about her not having this child. She had the pills in her hand. Even if my wife wants to divorce me after this speech, she brought North into the world even when I didn't want to. She stood up and she protected that child. So, the same thing that he heard from his father is the same thing that he's saying to his daughter, that he did not want his child. Now, his daughter, North, I want to say that she's around 7, 8. She's young. However old she is, she's young. She's a baby. So, North, I'm sure she's going to hear this and be like, what? My dad never wanted me? And then, especially when she gets older and she understands more, she's going to be like, yeah, my dad did not want me at all, and I'm just like, nobody wanted me. And that same rejection that Kanye West said that he feels, he's bringing it on to his daughter. So it's just funny how the pattern just kind of continues, and how you have to break these, what I call generational curses. But he said this out in the public, so not only is everybody else hearing this, but his daughter is hearing this as well. And this is the last thing that she needs to hear about her father not wanting him, especially when he's going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs on stage. Okay, so I'm sure when she goes back to school, when she talks to her friends, this is going to be the conversation. And I just feel for the child, because she does not deserve that. So, I know you're probably thinking, why did he say these things? Was he trying to get the Republican vote? Maybe. Donald Trump, he's really suffering in his approval ratings. So, they said, or they're estimating that he will not win the presidency for the election coming up in November. We'll see, because they said that before, and guess what? He won. So I wouldn't be surprised. But with his approval ratings down right now, having Kanye on his ticket or in his corner, when Kanye is so influential not only in America but around the world, that will be helpful in his vote. So perhaps it was for the Republican vote. Let's keep going. Was it to promote his album? Now he does have an album coming out. I know it's not finished. I don't believe it's finished, but I guess Kanye said he was going to put it out anyway. I don't know. But was it to promote this album? Now, him and his family, and when I say his family, I mean his in-laws, the Kardashian-Jenner clan. They are known for using people's flaws and their discretions in order to promote and make money off of it. So I would not be surprised if this was another stunt to promote something pertaining to either him or the Kardashian-Jenner clan. I don't know, but let's keep going. Mental health issues. Maybe there's some mental health issues going on, which is why he said what he said. I believe that this is the majority, that this answer right here is the majority of the reason why he said what he said. So as we all know, or as you may know, I should say, Kanye West, he's been pretty open about his mental health issues. He did state that he suffers from bipolar disorder, which, if any of you do not know what bipolar disorder is, it is defined by a pattern of manic and depressive episodes. So you have an episode where you're like really crazy all over the place, and then you have an episode where you're kind of down and in the dumps. That is bipolar disorder. So he's been really open about that. But it seems like he goes back and forth with taking his medicine. And he stated that when he doesn't take his medicine, he has these manic episodes. And I believe that manic episode is what we saw during his first presidential rally, and probably that tweet he made about running for president. He's just, I believe he's just not on his meds. Now, mental health is key. A lot of people are primarily concerned with physical health, but if your mental health is not together, that can affect a lot of your physical health. So mental health there needs to be more awareness about mental health, and people need to be more open as far as addressing whatever mental health issues they need to address with the proper doctors. So the question is, what do you do when you care more about the mental health issues of a person than the actual person suffering does? So how do you be supportive of a person who doesn't want to get help? It's basically what I'm asking. Because I'm sure, and you know what, let me not say I'm sure. I'm going to assume that with Kim Kardashian, when she married Kanye West and then found out that he had his mental health issues, I'm sure that she was at a loss. Maybe she knew about the mental health issues prior to her marrying him. I don't know. But either way, she's aware of them. So I'm sure that she's at a rock and a hard place right now, because I don't believe she's never really addressed it until now, because it has involved her daughter. So what can she do, and what can other people do in order to support these individuals who have mental health issues, who just, are going off the rockers? One thing you could do is talk about it. So you talk about it with the individual, and you talk about it with individuals who are going to be supportive. I think it's good to bring awareness to these mental health issues, because especially in the African American community, we're kind of hush hush about mental health issues and just say, oh yeah, he's crazy or she's crazy, but don't really get to the meat of what's going on, because maybe we don't understand, or maybe we just don't want to accept that there could be a mental diagnosis that just hasn't been verbalized yet. So it's always good to just talk about these mental health issues and bring awareness to what they are. Another thing that you could do is ask what would help them. So you ask the person, or ask the victim, I'll say, or the mental health patient. I won't say mental health patient. I'll say ask the individuals who is going through the mental health issues. Ask what will help them. Would being supportive help? Would taking them to the doctor help? Would being with them during their therapy sessions help? Like, what would help this individual who was going through these issues? And that, I believe, that will communicate to the individual suffering that, there are people who care and don't just want to throw me away because I'm going through these issues. Another thing that you can do in order to help these people is to avoid confrontation. So confrontation with a mental health patient or an individual, I keep saying mental health patient, let me say individual with a mental issue. Confronting them always, or majority of the time, does not work out well. The best way to approach these individuals is to treat them nicely and treat them fairly and treat them like they're human, because they still are. Just like we have physical illnesses and mental health, you have mental illnesses too. The same care that you give to someone who has a physical illness should be the same care that you give to someone with mental illness, which is support, care, and understanding. Another thing that you could do is ask them to seek professional help. Now, I believe with Kanye and Kim Kardashian, I believe Kim Kardashian may have already done this already, where she tried to get Kanye committed and he said no. And it's crazy too, because individuals who are going through these mental issues, they of course they're not thinking rationally. So when the family is trying to get involved, it's a little bit of pushback unless the courts declare the individual to be legally disabled because of their illness. But until then, there's really not much that you can do. And it kind of puts the family in a weird place, because you want to try to get control over the situation, but you can't, because all of these entities that are supposed to help this individual are saying like, no, we don't have any documentation saying that he's legally disabled so he can make his own decision. So I believe Kim Kardashian tried to have Kanye committed, and he was like, no, I'm okay, and they have to let him go. And I'm sure that was frustrating. But if it hasn't gotten to that point for some of my listeners today, I would even try to ask the individual, like, would you be willing to seek professional help? I'll be with you the entire way if you want. Let's try to get this going. And they may say yes, and then you fulfill your promise and be with them the entire way, or they may say no. If they say no, depending on how bad off they really are, you may have to get the courts involved, which could be an entire process. In Illinois, they're called guardianships, and they can be quite expensive because you're getting the courts involved in labeling this individual to be disabled because of their mental illness. The best thing that I believe that you can do for someone who is going through these mental health issues is to be supportive. Just like you support someone who may have a may have a physical illness, you do the same for someone who has a mental illness. You don't throw them away. You don't push them off to the side. You don't treat them differently. You be supportive. Now, I know Kim Kardashian, after all this stuff came out with her husband, she put out a really, I believe it was a classy response, addressing the issue with her husband. And I'll read it to you guys right now. It says, as many of you know, Kanye has bipolar disorder. Anyone who has this or has a loved one in their life who does knows how incredibly complicated and painful it is to understand. I've never spoken publicly about how this has affected us at home because I am very protective of our children and Kanye's right to privacy when it comes to his health. But today, I feel like I should comment on it because of the stigma and misconceptions about mental health. Those that understand mental illness or even compulsive behavior know that the family is powerless unless the member is a minor. People who are unaware or far removed from this experience can be judgmental and not understand that the individual themselves have to engage in the process of getting help, no matter how hard family and friends try. I understand Kanye is subject to criticism because he is a public figure and his actions at times can cause strong opinions and emotions. He is a brilliant but complicated person who, on top of the pressures of being an artist and a black man who experienced the painful loss of his mother and has to deal with the pressure and isolation that is heightened by his bipolar disorder. Those who are close with Kanye know his heart and understand his words sometimes do not align with his intentions. Living with bipolar disorder does not diminish or invalidate his dreams and his creative ideas, no matter how big or unobtainable they may feel to some. That is part of his genius, and as we have all witnessed, many of his big dreams have come true. We as a society talk about giving grace to the issue of mental health as a whole. However, we should also give it to the individuals who are living with it in times when they need it the most. I kindly ask that the media and public give us the compassion and empathy that is needed so that we can get through this. Thank you for those who have expressed concern for Kanye's well-being and for your understanding. With love and gratitude, Kim Kardashian West. So I can only imagine what she's going through with her and their children. I forget how many children they have, but I want to say it's about 3 or 4 children. What they're going through right now with Kanye's episode or episodes. But I think the best thing that we could do right now is to be supportive and then to also bring awareness to mental health and show how important it is. Just like physical health is important, mental health is important. Now I'm going to keep saying that until the wheels fall off. So what do you guys think about this Kanye West issue? Make sure you email me at mindofmillennials@gmail.com. You can also leave a comment on our Facebook page, The Millennial Mind, and also our Instagram page, _Millennial Mind. This podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Anchor, Spotify, and most recently, Google Podcasts. Yay! So we're now available on Google Podcasts, so make sure that you tune in on Google Podcasts. If you prefer that platform to listen to this podcast, you can listen to this podcast on that platform. And as always, I always try to have a quote for you guys, so here is my quote for this week. It's okay to feel unstable. It's okay to disassociate. It's okay to hide from the world. It's okay to need help. It's okay not to be okay. Your mental illness is not a personal failure. Ain't that the truth? Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and until next week, I will see you guys soon.